If you do not value your time,
if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth.
As a contractor, an entrepreneur, a business owner, no one else will.
But you gotta be willing to take the hits.
We want to value our time. We want to set a precedence with the customer that they'll value our time.
And not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him or her or anybody.
Very simple concept. This is a part 2 of a conversation that started in the DYOJO podcast episode 90.
You said that we could come to you if we had any questions.
Sure. Helping you shorten your dang learning curve.
Where's
the DYOJO podcast? Questions are allowed. Questions are welcome. Question everything, even us. This is infotainment for the skilled trades professional.
There's nothing like it out there.
Okay.
For this episode of the DYOJO podcast, I will explain in greater detail what I mean by a letter of intent as a means of screening clients. And I will actually, at the end of this episode, show you the cost incurred in wasting time even on one estimate a week.
I am the danger.
As well as some of the ways that you can recapture some of that wasted time and what that could look like for your bottom line.
Aren't you tired of getting dirt kicked in your face?
Like most of you, I'm a contractor. I'm still in the trenches.
I get to wake up every morning at 5 a.m.
Meeting with customers that are just kicking the tires.
It's the best.
Writing estimates that are scrutinized by adjusters, claims reviewers, homeowners, business owners.
All of my life. It's fantastic.
On the DYOJO podcast, we're all about trying to change our mindset and habits for success.
Don't you want a little taste of the glory?
Enter an audio-visual experience like no other.
If you do not value your time as a contractor, no one else will.
They will gladly have you do things for free, and they will gladly hire somebody else without thinking a second thought about all the time you put into whatever for your free estimate.
Happy Halloween, jerk!
As a refresher, here's what we talked about last week. Let's define a few terms. Estimates. Estimate, or something verbal based on some verbal parameters. Yes. Free estimate. Inspection.
Can I inspect your home?
Whereby I incur costs to
Go to your site, observe the damages, put details together, potentially send those to your insurance company.
That's a proposal or a bid. Every time I turn this crud on, so now this guy's trying to take away your customers. I mean, we want to value our time. We want to set a precedence with the customer that they'll value our time.
Yeah, and then they make you drive them to church the next morning. Like, gas ain't free.
Annoying but helpful.
You have entered the DYOJO podcast.
Get it off the radio.
This principle of valuing my time, whether you're small or large, it's valuable.
No one else will.
Another approach, this contractor says, we offer a 30-minute free first consultation. On that consultation, we learn about the client, the project, and their needs. We obtain needed measurements and photos, but make sure it's only 30 minutes in length. If you're new to the podcast,
Welcome
The DYOJO podcast.
this is a part 2 of a conversation that started in the DYOJO podcast episode 90. And this audio is comments from contractors within various social networking groups where other contractors try to help each other out.
Did we just become best friends? Yep.
This is a great idea. Maybe instead of charging for or requiring a contract right up front, there's another hybrid where we say this is what we give you for free, and anything past this point is then something that you have to pay for. Second appointment is to present the project design and proposal. We advise there's a $120 charge for the first 30 minutes, $35 for any additional 30 minutes after that. Most become so anxious on seeing the final design that they make payment no problem. They make payment up front, and then we proceed to scheduling that second consult.
Mindset change.
This piggybacks on what another contractor shared last week about you as the company, as the owners, the manager, the salesperson, the estimator. You have to sell the job. You have to sell your company's unique process. You have to sell them on why you're the one that they should be hiring.
See, I believe that a client is crazy not to hire me. And guess who else knows that too? The client knows that.
You have to sell your services was the encouragement from the contractor from last episode, episode 90. The voice you just heard, the video you just saw, is Steve Patrick, Level the Playing Field. On episode 82 of the DYOJO podcast, he shared a couple of great nuggets in addition to that comment. A great story about a plumber who used to price their services on value and then got too into their head about what the cost should be as compared to the market. He shares some great advice of overcoming objections.
Dealing with an adjuster, 90% of every word that comes out of your mouth, every sentence should be in the form of a question.
Whether it's a client or an adjuster or any other person involved in your project process, by using questions, please help me understand, please explain. Let's get back to our current contractor encouraging us with their unique process. They end up loving the design and making changes if needed, but they are so invested on us and their project that they end up hiring us. We don't provide copies of their design or proposal until a deposit is made. Some have told us that it is unfair.
It's no fair.
But we politely explain on how providing these unpurchased copies can cause a client to shop around with our hard work and time invested design. Most agree and proceed.
It's no fair. It's against the rules.
I think that's a great example of valuing your time, but creating a clear process with the customer so that they value your time moving forward. Because it's not just that first estimate. You want them understanding that your time is valuable the whole way through. We want to give a huge shout out to the sponsors of the DYOJO podcast. Those organizations also committed helping you shorten your dang learning curve. First off is the Institute of Inspection, Cleaning, and Restoration Certification. You know them industry-wide, SCII-CRC.
You want full access to all IICRC standards from any device, at any time, and in any place? Get a standard subscription for about 50 cents a day. Visit iicrc.org today.
Also, Advocate Claim Service, LLC, was founded to provide policyholders, brokers, and attorneys with a dedicated claim professional to develop a comprehensive claim presentation strategy.
Can I talk to David Princeton?
You got him.
While ACS does not sell insurance, they make it work.
If I want to take the anxiety out of my claim, who should I call?
Advocate Claim Service.
Advocate Claim Service.
ACS's principal consultant, David Princeton, a friend of the show, has resolved disputed claims, resulting in tremendous results, and also contributes to CNR Magazine's column, Dear David. We're also sponsored by book number 4 from John Isaacson, The Suck Less at Estimating. It's for better project outcomes. Available now as a bestseller through Amazon.
David, we've got a problem over here.
To the DYOJO podcast, iz@thedyojo.com if you're interested in sponsoring or advertising on this show.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What am I supposed to do?
The DYOJO podcast. Get rather tired of people using our estimate to then hire somebody cheaper.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Another contractor says, I do an interview upon first conversation on the phone with a new customer to see if we are a good fit for each other. If I can tell they're fishing or maybe can't afford us, I just pass.
Oh, go figure. Look at that. Oh, look at that.
There's a lot of people that are just, estimate stacking. I remember I had one where a customer had a printout and I could see it was quite a thick pile. And they had written out what they thought the scope should be for an insurance claim. And so I asked them, how many people are you planning to have bid? He goes, well, I had 4 people yesterday. You're the second one today.
I am so irritated. I don't know what in the hell's going on.
Well, I think out of, the 9 people that you're going to have bid this, I'm pretty sure you'll find somebody that's going to be the right fit for you. It's not going to be me. If this guy's not trying to sell us one of his stupid books, How to Suck Less at Estimating. It's like, is it lost on anybody else that he hasn't even, delivered on the quote-unquote promise to tell us about this super secret LLI? The Restoration Rundown. What are some of the things we can do to better screen our clients? And we've started, you'll hear it here first. I haven't really talked to many people about this, a letter of intent. I mean, it's going to be disappointing, I guarantee it. where we don't charge them up front. I know a lot of contractors are experimenting and having good results with that, but we say, we want you to sign a letter of intent saying that basically, the way we explain it, if you decide not to use us, what's happening a lot is we write a pretty darn good scope and they hire the cheaper guy.
I'm angry.
So if you decide to do that,
I'm spitting angry.
that's completely fine. But what we asked is we were able to recover our time, and so it lists out like our hourly rate and the minimum. There's no friggin' silver bullets. It's try it, make sure it's legal, discuss it amongst yourselves, make sure it's ethical, and then test it out.
Every time I turn this crud on, I'm mortified. I mean, first of all, guys talking about Xactivate and blah, 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 working with insurance companies. They're trying to just take away the contractor's profits. And now this guy's trying to take away your customers. I mean,
right? You the first time explaining it to a customer, it's like, we have this letter of intent. And the first customer I talked to about it, they're like, that makes sense. Like, oh, yeah, it does. Yes.
You get a little more bass in your voice after that, the next couple phone calls. So, yeah, I mean, it's being consistent with that too. And, you're not going to, and it's like anything in life, just you nailed it. Try it, do it, make sure it works within the parameters and the scope of what you're trying to accomplish, but more so be consistent and not have that shiny new object syndrome where you're bouncing all over the place.
Yeah.
Pick a path, get on it, make sure it works, trial and error. Because that's really the only way to really shake out to see if something's going to work.
All the crap we do, though, is that, right? Even internet marketing, right? If you're just like, I want more leads. Well, that's not specific enough. Like, what kind of leads do you want? Where do you want them from?
Yes.
So ours was, when we really sat down, it's like, we're wasting a lot of time on stuff that's not paying the bills. So how do we
think that you're intentional now with what you're trying to do?
The Restoration Rundown. If you haven't picked up a copy of this book, The No BS Guide to Internet Marketing for Restoration Contractors, the title tells you exactly what's in the book, helping you shorten your dang learning curve. It's not about finding some silver bullet that somebody pulls out of their rear end.
But what if he shot you in the face?
Or says, this works for my company.
What if he shot me in the face?
It's helpful. Those are good conversations to have, but really it's important for each individual business owner, each team to sit down and think through what are the issues, the most pressing issues that we're facing, and what are some of the creative ways we can source solutions. Sometimes those are tried and true solutions. There's nothing new about them. Sometimes they're a tweak of something existing, and sometimes it's just enforcing what you already have in play. We're wasting a lot of time on stuff that's not paying the bills. Well, I hear your pain. Another contractor says, I start my conversation with a new client by explaining to them that my estimate will absolutely not be the lowest bid. If they're looking for that, we can respectfully part ways right.
Walk away, bitch.
That gets rid of quite a bit of waste right away and also gets some customers educated as to why they should pay more for a quality job. The contractor we're about to talk with uses another approach, one that's a little bit controversial every time we bring it up.
Oh, no!
So, buckle in.
So what are you doing, a survey about do people charge for estimates?
Yeah, I'm just making a few calls.
Well, you have to charge for an estimate. People do it. Most people do it.
Yeah.
Do it for free.
Oh, yeah. Dave Mason, your advisement is get an assignment of benefits on every call or don't go. Is that correct?
Yeah. Or get assigned when you show up.
Drum roll. Let's get into the hot topic. We're pulling from episode 54, The Birthday Bash. This was the first appearance by Pete Consigli.
Back to normal with a question mark.
If you don't know who that is, go back and check it out. And a follow-up conversation with Ed Cross. I'm not going to introduce it any further. Here is that clip. You've got the book. It is called The Book on Assignment of Benefits by Ed Cross, the restoration lawyer.
Ed, what is an assignment of benefits?
And how is this a tool to be used for contractors?
Useful tool? Did this blabberhead?
An assignment of benefits is the transfer of legal title to rights under an insurance policy over to someone else who's performing a service. And just about everybody who's ever had medical insurance has signed an assignment of benefits and probably doesn't even remember it, that allows the doctor to bill the medical insurance company directly. And that's actually a convenience to the patient.
Oh yeah, poof. Just sprinkle a little of this fairy dust, put a little of that fairy dust in together, rub some stones in it, and recharge them in the power of the moon, and boom, okay, your problems are going to go away.
When a contractor gets an assignment on an insurance claim, it allows them to step into the shoes of the policyholder and collect directly from the insurance company. And they are very poorly understood. They've got a bad rap.
I don't know what in the hell's going on.
There's been a lot of controversy. There's been some legislation. And that's why I thought it was time to go ahead and put out a book on this. And the book explains the strategies. It explains some of the things that I've learned in the process. It includes my personal assignment of benefits, which I now call assignment of insurance rights, because it's much more than just an assignment of benefits. And it includes instructions on how to present it to a policyholder and how to present it to an insurance company, and then what to do if they don't pay on it.
If you want to hear more about this topic of the assignment of benefits, get his book, go back and listen to episode 54. Dave Mason, sorry for the interruption. Sorry to keep you holding. Let's get back to your thoughts on charging for estimates.
And then in that assignment, it outlines, most of your work is time and material, so it outlines what your fee schedule is. And you do that MIT and repairs. Doesn't matter.
Right.
It's funny, we get mad at the insurance company that they throw cost of doing business in our faces, but a lot of contractors do it to themselves. You know, they just take on stuff for free without getting any kind of a surety. The customer sure is doesn't bat an eye to spend your money and not have to pay for services.
If I don't have an assignment, I'm not doing it if it's an insurance claim. And if it's not an insurance, everything starts with a deposit.
Yep. I'm surprised by how many people are like, well, if I charge or get a contract signed, I'd lose a lot of customers. And it's like, well, yeah, probably the right kind of customers to lose, though.
I mean, if you don't have an assignment, they could use your estimate, get the check, and say, just keep the money.
I'm like a tornado of anger, swirling about. My heart rate is dangerously high right now.
Okay, slideshow. Everybody loves a slideshow. This is about the cost of wasted time. If you're listening, I think you'll still be able to follow along. We're not doing super complex equations, but if you're watching, the math will be a little easier to follow. So if you are not screening your clients, if you're not asking some of the tough questions consistently to make sure that you have screened and vetted this client, you believe it's an honest opportunity. This is to try to calculate what one bad inspection, wasted time in a week might cost. Let's say the initial call.
I don't know who you are.
The screening.
I don't know what you want.
The back and forth between whoever's going to go out and do the inspection. Let's say that costs us 30 minutes. So your transport to site, I know this is silly, even if it's in the same town in these metro areas, you're probably traveling 45 minutes just to get across the street. So we've got the initial call at 30 minutes, the transport to site at 30 minutes. We've got the on-site inspection, 30 minutes, I would say on average, depending on how big it is, what all is involved, how talkative the client is, how many questions they have, those kinds of things. Then you have the transport back from the site, maybe to the next job. Portal to portal typically is what most contractors would charge. And we've got the estimate. Let's say you're spending at minimum 30 minutes to write the estimate. From initial call to estimate, we've already spent with an asterisk, 2.5 hours. So now we're going to have at least one interaction with the customer, probably to talk about, hey, this is what's in our scope, this is our pricing, and then presenting that to the insurance company. Let's say that at least one interaction is going to cost us at least another 30 minutes. And say everything is aligned, there's only one revision or some small interaction. Now we've got to explain to the customer, this is the approved scope and cost. Would you like us to send over a contract? So now we've got a total initial call to an approved quote unquote estimate. That whole process is 3.5 hours with an asterisk.
What is this, amateur hour?
So we ask the customer, we've done all this work, we've inspected, we've explained, we've worked with your insurance company, are you ready to sign a contract? And they say, I would, but
y'all play too many games.
Insert whatever you have heard.
I ain't mad at you.
I think the key thing, hopefully, that anyone takes away from this is screen your clients better so that you know what you're getting into, because 3.5 hours wasted, it's a bummer, right? I just wrote this bid. Now they're going to hire somebody cheaper. So 3.5 hours out of a 40-hour work week. That's 9% of the available hours. 3.5 hours times 51 weeks. We're just accounting for 1 week of vacation. That's a total of 178.5 hours per year. That's just one employee. If we take an example rate, $50 an hour times 3.5 hours, we're wasting $175 per week per employee. $175 times 51 weeks. Again, the 1 week for vacation, that's $8,925 per year. $200 a week. $10K a year wasted.
And not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him or her or anybody.
An upcoming episode of the podcast, we're going to talk about using data to make better decisions. Please, I'm not talking about the data program, CRM, those kinds of things, just some basic business data that as a leader, a manager, even an employee, that can help you make better decisions and achieve better outcomes.
If you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth.
So close rate is one of those data components.
So you take your number of estimated projects, typically in a month, divide that by the number of contracted projects in that same time period, and you have your close rate. If I sent out 40 bids and I was able to contract with 10 of those, I have a 25% close rate.
Coffee's for closers only.
If you're not tracking it, I would encourage you, before waiting for the episode to come out, to make this one of the key things you track at least on a monthly basis. So if you're shooting for a 40% close rate, and you had 51 inspections that were on wasted time, what would it look like if we could reduce those? Now, here's another data point. At a $10,000 job size average is a good way to get a quick metric on what's going on in your company.
You take your number of contracted projects in a given time period, typically in a month, divided by the dollar amount of those contracted projects in that same time period. Now you have a rough metric of job size average. So say you have 200,000 in contracts, and that's 20 projects in that time period, you have a $10,000 job size average.
If you had a 40% close rate and you were able to reduce the amount of time you spent on those 51 inspections on not wasted time, so your 51 estimates times 10,000, that's $500,000 just on one person wasting 3.5 hours, one inspection a week.
With a live mic and at the speed of light, with a hearty, flatten your dang learning curve
of Restorers,
with his dedicated guests from many industries.
The DYOJO by Restorers,
the daring and yet resourceful masked ninja of the airways podcast leads a fight for fair, reasonable, and customary claims for all of us to learn from.
Annoying but helpful.
You have entered the DYOJO podcast.
Get it off the radio. If you were able to convert that into productive time, so at a 40% close rate, if you had $510,000 in potential work times a 40% close rate, you would have about $204,000 in additional contracted work had the time been better spent.
What the hell are we doing here, Harry?
If you reduce waste,
this is one employee wasting their time on one inspection each week.
That's potentially another $204,000 to your revenue. For rough math, based on conservative numbers, that's the recapture of up to 178.5 hours of productive hours and $8,925 in productive costs. You can increase productivity, reduce waste. If you can do both, you have a chance of landing the sweet spot. If you can reduce that waste, increase that productivity, pretty amazing.
If you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth.
If you're expecting me to put time, then you are going to pay. A very simple concept.
If you do not value your time as a contractor, no one else will.
This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.